Welcome back to our United for Math series on area and perimeter. In this lesson, we'll be focusing on finding the area of a rectangle using the formula length times width. Sometimes you'll often hear of this as base times height as well. All we're looking for is the one side that's across from the other and then the other side that's across from the other. You can call them length times width, you can call them base times height. I like to use those terms interchangeably with students. That way, whichever one they see, they'll know what to do. So using that formula is going to be a little bit different than when they found area in 3rd grade. They did that just by using arrays. We're going to start out with a problem like that today, and I'll show you how it's a little bit different. Let's look at our first example. So in this example, it says, what is the area of a rectangle below in square units? Now, we're going to be focusing on a square unit. So if we look at one of these squares and we were to blow it up, it would be like a square that is 1 inch or 1 unit of measure by 1 inch by 1 inch by 1 inch. Now I used inch in this case, but it could be foot or yard or meter or centimeter. But students need to know that it is 1 by 1 by 1 by 1. And so that means it's not just linear, it's an actual square. Like we're covering this entire rectangle with these tiny squares. And that's basically what a square unit is. It's one tiny piece of the rectangle that's been broken up. Now we have to figure out how many squares by how many squares, sort of like an array. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 squares. And this way we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 squares. So we have 6 by 5. So if we're applying that area of a rectangle formula, which is length times width, we would say the area is the length, which is 6, times the width, which is 5, so 6 times 5. 6 times 5 is 30, but that's not where we stop. Because we're finding the area and we're looking for square units, it would be 30 square units. The concept of square units can be a little bit difficult because it's not square feet or square inches, so it's really hard for them to see that unit. But once we start applying units of measure like feet, yards, centimeters, inches, they'll get it a little bit quicker. Let's look at our next example. In this next example, we can see we have a unit of measure and it's going to be feet. So it says find the area of the rectangle below. So the area formula again is length times width or base times height. So we're looking for the length, which is 10 feet. So we have 10. And then the height here, the width, is 2 feet. So we have 10 times 2. 10 times 2 is a basic fact, so we have 20. But that's not going to be my answer. My answer is going to be 20 square feet. 20 square feet, because remember, all of these could be broken into tiny little units. I could break it down into 2 by 10 squares. So I'm looking at how many squares would cover this rectangle. A great way to show this to students is to use the flooring in your house or your classroom. You can mark that out with tape, each of the tiles if you have them. And if you have 12-inch by 12-inch tiles, which I've been fortunate enough to have in classrooms, you can mark those out and have students physically tape out area and see those square units. You could also do it with paper. Cut out 12 by 12 pieces of paper, or 1-inch by 1-inch pieces of paper, and then you'd have a square inch. This makes it a little more tangible for students. Let's try another example. In this one, we also have another rectangle that's already been drawn out for us. It says, use the area formula to find the area of the shape below. So we have 25 yards by 12 yards. So our area formula, again, was length times width. So we have the area is equal to 12 times 25. So we'll have to use our multiplication skills to figure this out. So let's use the area array method since we're doing area. So we'll break this into 10 and 2. And we'll break this into 20 and 5. We'll put that in our area boxes. Now, if you're not familiar with this skill, go back to our multiplication section and check out our video on the area array method when you're talking about multiplication. So we broke up 10 and 2 and 20 times 5. So 1 times 2 is 2, and add 2 zeros. 10 times 5 is 50. 20 times 2 is 40. And 2 times 5 is 10. Now I'll add up all these parts, 200 plus 40 plus 50 plus 10, and I will get 300. So we'll have 300 here, but remember, it's not just 300, it's 300 square yards. Because remember, this could be broken into tiny little squares or a giant array. Now in that example, the numbers were a little bit larger, so students, they needed to apply that multiplication knowledge, especially of those multi-digit numbers. Let's check out one more example where we'll look at a word problem with area. In this example, it says the Smith family is buying tile for their kitchen floor. The room is 20 feet wide and 15 feet long. How many square feet of tile will they need to buy to cover the whole floor? So let's use our cubes method. We're going to circle numbers. So we have 20 feet and 15 feet. So we have 20 feet wide and 15 feet long. Then we're going to underline our question. How many square feet will they need to buy to cover the whole floor? And now we're looking at that key word. Look at that, cover, right there. When we see cover, we think area. When we see around or surrounding, that's perimeter. But we want to focus on cover for area. Now we need to look at any other key words, and we just know width times length, so we know that's going to be fitting into our formula, into that area formula of length times width. So our length is 15 feet, so area equals 15 times our width is 20 feet. If they wanted to, students could also draw this out, and they could draw that rectangle being 15 feet long and 20 feet wide. Obviously not drawn to scale here. So 15 feet wide and 20 feet in width, and then figure out from there. So we have 15 times 20. We're going to figure that out with our multiplication skills. Students can throw that 0 to the bottom and use sort of a partial product method. 2 times 5 is 10. 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3, for 300. 300 square feet. Okay, that was the same answer as the last one. Some things to remember when we're talking about area is they have to remember the area formula is length times width or base times height. Try to use them both, that way when students see either or, that they understand what they need to do. Also, talk about arrays with it, because that's really what area is. It's how many square units, square feet, square inches, square yards, covers a certain area. And remember that keyword cover. That's going to tell you always that that's going to be area. Covering over things like an area rug, like carpet, like tile, like paint, something that covers. Thank you again for joining us at United for Math. We'll see you in our next lesson where we'll be discussing area of complex shapes.